Monday is here. That means on the Rick Corey Sports Special, we're talking to the guy in the Bixby shirt. That is Loren Montgomery. And we don't do this very often, but we're talking after a loss, 31-20 to Norman. It shocked me a little, Coach. Certainly, probably you too. But that turned into a defensive ball game, at least for Norman, especially in the second half. Just give me a breakdown now that you've looked at film.
Well, first off, we knew Norman was extremely talented. They've got some excellent players. They're well coached. They're a veteran team, and they came out and jumped on us early in the first half. Had some big plays. We couldn't quite get anything going offensively, and we were able to put together a little bit of a rally to take it in at halftime. 21-20, I think, was the score going in at halftime. It kind of felt like maybe we had a little bit of momentum, but unfortunately came out in the second half and weren't able to get anything going offensively. And then they hit us with another big play, on their side, and never really could make up any ground. We had some big plays. We created a couple turnovers, a couple interceptions, but really we're just kind of stale offensively and couldn't make any big plays. Couldn't really make anybody miss, and so give them a lot of credit. It was you could tell it was a huge game for them. They played so hard, and we didn't match their intensity. So got a lot of work to do. They're 9-1 for a reason,
Yep.
but fortunately for us, we caught a break, and we still have the number one seed headed into the playoffs, and got the bye this week. So got to go back to the drawing board. Got to grow as a team and mature as a team, and work on some of the things that we've been working all year long, trying to get better at.
A couple of things. First of all, as you mentioned, you get it to 21-20. It was 21-3, and you got it within 21-20. In that period, when you guys were kind of humming offensively, what was going right for you?
Well, we were able to run the ball just a hair, and then hit hog shooter on a big play. Took advantage of some good field position for one thing. The first half was sort of a monsoon, and so it was a bit of a defensive battle, and took advantage of a little bit of field position there in the second quarter, and so we're able to get a couple touchdowns, a couple field goals, and hopefully had a little bit of momentum. Unfortunately, we didn't take that into the second half.
You mentioned there are some things to go to the drawing board for, and so much of this is matchup, no matter what sport it is. So, I mean, I know you're not going to go make wholesale changes, but when you look at it, is this a personnel matchup issue with Norman? Or are there things that you systematically need to work on this week?
Well, I'd say both. From a defensive perspective, we had some guys in position and you simply didn't make plays, and so you could attribute some of that to personnel. They did a really good job. We got schemed a little bit as well as whipped a little in some places and forcing some guys to make some one-on-one tackles in quite a bit of space. And then, offensively, had some things blocked up. And the guy that you can't block ends up making the tackle in a lot of situations. And, in order to be efficient offensively, when you get to safety, you got to make the safety miss at times. And so we were unable to do that on most of the snaps. And, got to find ways to either get even with him where we can block that guy or make that guy miss.
Sure. Yeah. And by the way, the players coach is talking about the running back Cameron Donald, quarterback Phoenix Murphy for Norman. Those are really good players. And then in the second half, it was really difficult, I know, offensively for you guys. I mean, third down, I think overall in the game was 1 of 15. You guys are almost never in bad third down situations. Have you broken that one down yet?
Yeah, we certainly have, and 7% effective on third down is simply unacceptable, and so something that we've got to do a better job of, and that all starts with being efficient on first down, and we weren't, albeit whether it's a penalty, whether it's a bad snap, we had a little bit of that in the first half. And then, so you got to be efficient on first and second down so that, you got favorable chains in your third down situations. And so 1 of 15, not real good.
Yeah, it's not. Your teams aren't accustomed to losing. I mean, nobody likes to lose, but you guys just aren't accustomed to losing. So, I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I played, well, there was a time when we were pretty good a long time ago. And I remember when you go 8-2 in a season, those two losses, you kind of scratch your head when you go to the locker room. You don't know what coach is going to say, and you got all those concerns. You've been there as a player too. How do you approach a team that's not used to losing in a game like this?
Well, I think the big thing is, we got to stick our plow back in the ground and we got to go to work. And today, well, actually Saturday when the kids got here, we told them, hey, you got to have an open mind. We got to watch this film. It's going to be painful, but we got to learn from it and grow from it. And then we got to put it behind us. And as coaches, we're going to have a plan on some things that we need to get better at, that we need to practice this week, since we don't necessarily know who we will be playing the following week. And so it'd be a good opportunity for us to correct some of our mistakes. And some of our mistakes are correctable. Some of them, as you mentioned, will be a personnel issues where we got to find some different looks and get some different people to ball and those things. And so it's a growth process. And we're not young anymore. I've talked about being young all season, but as you go into week 11, you're not young. Those guys are veterans. And so we need to quit making some of those young guy mistakes that we've made.
And so they react pretty well on Saturday, at least during the film?
Oh yeah. Yeah, certainly. Obviously, just like anything, it's painful to watch just a little bit. There's some good things, there's some bad things, and our kids have been pretty mature in film and taken what we show them and have grown from it. And so we can only hope that we take the next step. I feel like really we've gotten better most every week throughout the season, and so we got to do that again this week.
Yep. And we'll talk about who you're going to play, or I mean, the chances to play, and you may get a chance to get that Norman team again as well. We'll do that in a second. I want to remind you that Coach's visits are sponsored by Sunrise Cafe at 101st and Sheridan. When Randy Robbins sent me this week's specials, I'm surprised I'm not there now. I really am. The breakfast special this week is a chicken fajita breakfast skillet. Now, first of all, I'm a breakfast skillet craze. I mean, breakfast is my thing to begin with, and you get all that stuff in one place in the breakfast. But if you put it in one big bowl together, for me, that's better. And that's what they've done with hash browns, bell peppers, onions, tomatoes, cheddar, Monterey Jack, 2 eggs, any way you like them, and bread for $8.99. Now, I want to remind you, too, that if you don't like bell peppers, you can ask them to keep that out of there. But that's what this morning's is, the chicken fajita breakfast, and it's all week long. And then at lunch, it's chicken cacciatore, which is ricotta stuffed zucchini blossoms on top for $8.99. So, yeah, while that loss hurts, but, that breakfast might make me feel better, at least for a little bit. It's 101st and Sheridan, right next to the Sinclair. That is Sunrise Cafe, and thanks to Randy Robbins, and open till 2:30 every day. All right, so Norman, North, and Moore. That is who you're going to end up playing after that first round bye. First of all, not a bye week. It's it's not an off week. It's a bye week. But you do have that extra time after a loss, which is good. You've got things to, you can work on. At the same time, do you worry at all on those bye weeks about sharpness?
Oh, I don't know. The last few years we've been in, we've had bye weeks, whether it be the first week of the playoffs, like it's been the last couple of years since we've been up in 6A1. I guess this will be the third year of that. Or, if it's been Thanksgiving week and years prior when we were down in 6A2. And so a little bit different dynamic, but also an opportunity for your guys to get their legs back underneath them, for you to clean some things up. And, it's a long season. And so how you manage that, I think is important. But at this point in the season, I'm not too concerned with coming back out and being sharp. I'm more concerned with cleaning up the things that we need to clean up. And I feel like our guys will come out sharp and come out fast. Unfortunately, in 2022, we were in the same situation where we had a loss week 10. And, our guys came back and responded really well, and we were able to win the state championship and get a rematch with the team that beat us. And so hopefully we'll come out sharp here in a couple of weeks when we get to play and make a good playoff run.
And obviously it's because you have that bye week, Norman, North, and Moore, you're going to get a chance to see them play before you play them. So then you have a week to game plan for them. Does that make it easier, or not easier, but what is the philosophy with this first week? Is that more, hey, work on us, which I know you do anyway, and then once you're going to obviously turn and work on them? I guess what I'm trying to ask is how much work will you do on those two teams this week, or will you at all?
Yeah, we're going to sprinkle in some of what they do. I know Both teams obviously have different schemes, but as we script practice, we're going to take a look, for instance, what defensive front, and we're going to practice against both defensive fronts that both teams run, maybe some popular blitzes. And then from a defensive perspective, we'll get ready for some of the unique things that both of the teams do. And, like I mentioned, each team has a little bit different identity, but we'll touch on those things, along with some areas where we were exposed last week, because anytime you're exposed on game film, it shows up again and again and again until you get it fixed.
All right, so as I said, the Norman North Moore winner. I'm looking at the bracket here in front of me. On the other side of it is Norman, Westmore, Edmond Memorial, who beat Union to get that first round by themselves. When you look at the bracket nowadays, and we've always said the West has talent. I think they have more this year, especially in skill, than I've seen in a long time. When you look at those two sides of the bracket, I mean it's pretty significant. But are you surprised at all at any of the West Side pop up in skill level players?
Well, I don't think so. I think the West Side teams have always had really good skill players and have always had really good coaches. And this year there's just a lot more parity. I feel like at with all teams, really, even a couple of the teams that didn't make the playoffs, I feel like have pretty good teams that are well coached and good talent. And that's kind of the way it goes in 6A and 6A1 specifically. Every team has talented kids that can make you miss, that you don't want to kick to. Every team has talented coaches because it's the highest level of football, and that's kind of the way it goes. And so, not surprised at all. Especially, for instance, Rocky Martin and Norman. He's been there for a long time now, and continues to grow, continues to build. And it just so happens that he's got an excellent quarterback back. He's got a couple excellent wide receivers back, excellent running back, and it all is kind of coming together for him this year. And that's the way it rolls when you have continuity and a coach that's been there for 8 years.
You look at the quarterbacks just in these games. You got your guy Norman North has Eshelman. I saw the kid at Edmond Memorial, who I mean that dude's something, who was great. Now I haven't seen Westmore because I was on the road with Tulsa. Then you've got a Wassos kid who's playing great on the other side, Shakers on the other side, and Owen at Jinx. I don't know that I've seen better group of quarterbacks in a set of playoffs. I really don't. I know coaches aren't much on superlatives sometimes, but I don't know. At least I've seen a better group of quarterbacks.
Well, you can also throw in the quarterback from Deer Creek who's committed to
Yes,
Georgia Tech. You can
right.
also throw in the Mustang quarterback who can do it both ways, who throws it really well, who's an excellent runner, who's a big physical kid that looks a little different. Moore has a quarterback that has a West Point offer that is can do it both ways really, but is just a dynamic runner. And so all across the board, you've got talented players, talented quarterbacks. And, as I mentioned, some of these programs that are having success, are now in multiple years of the coaching staffs. And so
Yeah.
they've got a little momentum, a little continuity. And I think that's important.
I'm excited for it personally. I just think it's going to be so up in the air, more so than I think I've seen before. And our coaches don't like to project, and they certainly don't generally like to talk about playing and getting back at a team or revenge or any of that garbage. But you're going to have a chance more than likely to get Norman. Owasso's on the other side. Those are the two teams that you haven't had success with against this year. Do you talk about that at all? Do you try to minimize that kind of talk? How do you approach that?
Well, I don't talk about it at all, Rick, because our number one focus will be the more Norman North game and the winner of that. And both of those teams are trending upwards. They've finished their season strong.
Mhm.
I think Norman North has won 4 out of their last 5 ball games, or maybe
Yeah.
5 out of the last 6, and was a 1-score game with Owasso. Playing with a ton of confidence and talented kids, great coaching staff, and then more, kind of the same thing. They were missing some guys earlier in the year. They're starting to get healthy, and so for us that is sitting here at 8-2 ball team that is still trying to figure out who we are, our identity, and things like that. It would be foolish for us to look any further than our next game.
Yep, I understand that. Well, it is odd to talk to you after a loss. I got to tell you, it feels weird. And I thought about that yesterday. You entered my mind yesterday, and I was thinking about getting ready for today, and I was writing stuff down, and I thought, wow, I don't know that I've done this very often. I know it'll change, and there'll be bounce back. There's no question. And at least you're going to have a little bit of a bye week and a really good, hopefully, week of weather for practice. So we'll visit next week. We'll see who you're playing, and we'll move on from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick. I always enjoy it.